We're live. Good evening, everyone. This is EdTech Mixed Plate, episode 27. Tonight is October 12th, and this is our second episode as we participate in Connected Educator Month. Thanks for joining us tonight. Let's get through introductions first, and then I have a couple of things to share, and then we'll get into our discussion with our special guest. So I'm Mike Fricano. I'm a tech integration specialist at Iolani School. Megan, want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Megan Cummings, tech coordinator at Halikula Elementary School.
Hey, Megan. And tonight we have a special guest with us. Last week we talked about the maker movement. We had special guest Matt Dillon from Iolani. And tonight we're going to continue with our guest lineup. And we have Laurel Oshiro from Sacred Hearts Academy. She is the lady behind I Teach 808, a great conference in the state of Hawaii, and we brought her on to talk about Educator PD. So I'm going to let her introduce herself, and then we'll get into some of the logistics for tonight. All right, Laura, can you tell us who you are, where you come from, and what you do now?
Yes. Hi, I'm Laurel Oshiro. Maiden name was Laurel Taylor. I just got married last year, but I'm the technology curriculum coordinator as well as the library media specialist for preschool to age 12 at Sacred Hearts Academy. And I was also in charge of the one-to-one iPad deployment program 3 years ago. So that kind of fueled our I Teach 808 PD opportunities.
Well, how many kids do you have at your school, Laurel?
Total from preschool to 12th grade, we have about 950, but I service the elementary side, so that's about 350.
Well, so when you talk about a one-to-one iPad rollout, is that iPads for every student at Sacred Hearts Academy, or just for certain grades?
Yes, just for grades 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then we have a 2-to-1 ratio for preschool to second grade, and preschool to second grade is owned by the school. And so each classroom has, if they want a whole set of iPads, they just borrow from the classroom next door. And then the grades 3 to 6 is BYOI, Bring Your Own iPad. So it's been very successful, and it's helped alleviate a lot of the responsibility on our tech team. And so I've worked really closely with them to make sure that our program runs smoothly.
So, as a I'm sorry, I'm kind of getting off on a tangent here. I'm just interested.
No, it's good questions. Yeah.
As a BYOI, so you're as a requirement for students to be a part of the school, the parents have to purchase them an iPad.
Yes, for grades 3 to 6. It has to at least be an iPad 2. It can be an iPad Mini or an iPad 3 or up. But the main thing is the camera. We at the time in 2012, I did a lot of research. I looked to other schools. We were the only school on the island that had a bring your own iPad. I couldn't find any other. I mean, so we didn't really have anybody to model after, and iPads in education was very new, so it was kind of a daunting task. But it was our principal's vision that we would be a bring your own iPad, and most schools were leasing at the time, so we had to create our own acceptable use policy and work with teachers closely on what kind of apps they wanted on their iPads. So it was a big shift, but after the first year we had training every Wednesday, and I was in charge of that, and I'd only had an iPad myself for 3 months, so we had to bring in outside help.
That could be a BYOI could be a whole nother topic to discuss. I'd be really interested in hearing more about that iPad rollout program.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Let's talk more about that, because that's why I was very intrigued. I've never heard of a bring your own iPad program, so I'd be very interested in hearing more about that later on.
Yeah, I'm free.
But and I think your conference, or I Teach 808, it centers around the iPad or tablets, or actually iPad, right?
Yes.
We'll talk more about that.
So. Yeah, kind of going to what kind of spurred on I Teach 808. My principal said, okay, Laurel, we're starting iPads. You need to make sure we get some training in. And really cool grant. The Augustine Educational Foundation, they fund Catholic school programs primarily. But at the time we were also 1 out of 10 schools in the state that was a school of the future. So we also had a $500,000 grant. So that also helped those two together, plus Sacred Hearts Academy. So we had 3 sponsors helped get EdTech off the ground. So the first year was just making sure we knew how to turn the iPad on and off, how to download apps, like very basic stuff. And the one of the stipulations about schools of the future, as you're probably familiar with, is that we open it up to other schools, because they're not about, like, you know, one school having all the resources. You get the grant if you agree to open it up to other schools. And so we followed that model, and we continue to follow that model even though Schools of the Future ended last year. And it's really helped, I think, build our community of professionals, or a community of learners, and brings us all together, and we all can share our experiences. So yeah, first year was focused on iPads. The second year, we did notice an interest that not everybody had iPads, but they still wanted to learn more about using technology in school. So we wanted to make sure we built our network up. So my principal said, okay, first year we kind of learned about iPads. Second year, she said, all right, Laurel, I want you to implement digital portfolios in preschool to 12th grade. I'm like, okay, great. Where do we start? Like, there's so many different things out there. There's Weebly, there's Evernote, and so it was a big discussion among our faculty, but we came to the conclusion that sticking with Google Drive or Google Apps for Education would be it. So Google Apps for Education, you don't need an iPad. It's compatible with PCs, Macs, any device, even your phone. So when we opened that up, it was all schools that were able to participate in that. It was relevant to everyone. And now going into our third year, where we had a mixture. We had iPads and we had Google. So we're trying to really open it up and build our networks and collaborate and learn from each other, because technology changes so much. When you have a big community, I think you gain the most out of it instead of isolating yourself from other schools. So Schools of the Future helped a lot with.
Cool. Yeah, let me get to some logistics first, and then we have some great questions to ask you to find out more about your, EdTech 808 and how it came together, and what the future is. But let me get to some things for our audience out there. We have a couple viewers out there. We appreciate you guys watching live. Don't forget to check out our show notes for tonight. So there's the link. It's bit.ly/mixedplate27. And we have the list of questions there. Laurel has started answering those questions in the show notes, but we're going to go a little deeper tonight during our discussion. And we'll continue to add resources to that document throughout our discussion and after tonight as well if we come across anything else. And the document it is open for commenting and suggesting. So if any viewers out there have their own tips or resources to add to our show tonight, feel free to add it via the comments or the suggestion tool in our Google document for our show notes. And don't forget about our website. It's bit.ly/edtechmixedplate, where we've archived all of our episodes and show notes. We have a schedule for future episodes, and as well as a form that we'd appreciate our audience to fill out to join our mailing list. And if you have any specific EdTech-related questions that you'd like us to address in the future, we'd really appreciate hearing from all of you out there. So feel free to check out those links during your free time. I'll put the show notes link back up there. And we are utilizing the Q&A app tonight. So if you're watching live, open up the Q&A app and feel free to participate in the conversation by asking your questions or just sharing your own tips, resources, and opinions within our Hangout. I see Peggy George is already with us tonight, and she said, how exciting to have a principal who's asking the tech coordinator to implement new programs. A dream job, definitely, Laurel.
Thank you, Peggy.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Oh, thank you so much, Peggy. Sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. Peggy is she's a longtime viewer. She's always, practically always with us every episode. So she's a fun audience member to have, and she's always participating. So thanks for joining us again, Peggy. Appreciate that. If anybody else out there has any questions along the way, or you want to share anything, you can do so via the Q&A app, and we really appreciate it. Okay, so of course, October is Connected Educator Month, and there are 7 themes, I think, for Connected Educator Month. Last week we focused on one of the themes, the Maker Movement, and tonight we're focusing on the theme of Educator PD. And I thought it'd be a great idea to bring on Laurel because of her involvement in creating iTeach 808 as Educator PD for teachers in Hawaii. It's a very successful conference. I've had the chance to present it twice, and I really enjoy the opportunity as well as the opportunity to network and meet new people in my state. And so we're going to ask her some questions about her conference and have a discussion around the topic of Educator PD and why it's important for teachers. Okay, so we do have some questions in the show notes. I'm going to jump to that and grab our first question here. I think you already hit on the first question, right? How did iTeach 808 come to be? So as you mentioned, I think that came to light after your iPad rollout, and there was a need for training around your new devices and the technology involved. That's great, yeah. So let's see. So what is the purpose of iTeach 808? And you kind of talked about that already too, right? You went from what the first year was to the second year and the third year, and how that's kind of evolved. I kind of also wanted to hit on
the third year. Did you guys cover the third year? Did you cover the third year?
Oh, yeah, Lord. Did you talk about the third?
Sort of. I mean, it's still in development. We actually got double the funding this year. So previous years we got $2,500, and then Sacred Hearts would have to fund the other $2,500. But Augustine Educational Foundation, they loved it so much. It's actually one of the most successful programs that they fund. So they gave us double the amounts. We got $5,000 this year, and then Sacred Hearts put in the other $5,000. So it's almost like, wow, so we're going to have 2 conferences. We just got done with our first one on September 20th. Tons of positive reviews. You just search the hashtag iTeach808. And yeah, Mike was really wonderful as always. We're so pleased to have him the past 2 times. But it was about iPads and then also about Google Classroom. So we had a variety of breakout sessions that were being offered. And then we had Lynn Horiuchi from Kamehameha Schools, and she was the keynote speaker, and she's always so inspiring. Yeah. She's like, you just sit next to her and she starts talking, and you just you get so excited about technology and education. So we're so pleased to have her as well. And so now we're planning for our second one in January. And so our second one, I'm bouncing a couple of ideas off of my dean, my dean was the one who wrote the grant for Schools of the Future, and so she plays a big role in all of this as well. She's an administrator, but I'm toggling between free apps in education. That could be the theme. So some of the educators, a lot of our audience is Catholic schools because our grant was Catholic schools, but it's open to everyone. And so funding is always we're not there to make money, so to be able to have these free opportunities means a lot to the Catholic schools especially. So they're always asking about free tools, tech tools to use in your classroom. So we're thinking maybe free apps in education. That might be the thing for our second one, like the top free education apps. But is that good? Okay. Yeah, I'm still bouncing a couple of ideas, but that's kind of where we're looking forward.
Can you talk a little bit about the format of iTeach 808? Because I know from the first iTeach 808, the way that it was kind of set up is a little different from the second iTeach 808 that just happened in September. So you kind of talk about those 2 different formats and why the difference in the 2?
Oh my gosh, it changes every year. So last year was our second year. Our first year we had it every Wednesday in the afternoon, and we found that it was kind of hard to rush from school, and then it was broken up over time. So I took everybody's comments into consideration, and so then I offered it on a Saturday, and the Saturday had huge turnout. We actually reached a total of 35 schools and over
Wow.
120 participants. So that was such an amazing opportunity just to have all those schools there in one place. So each school kind of sent a representative, mixture of public schools, private schools, Catholic schools. But the format for last year was a 2-hour session with your presenter of choice. Then we have free lunch, and then you can choose a different session, and it's 2 hours. And so I've gone to a ton of conferences thanks to the Schools of the Future grant. I've been able to go to a lot of conferences, and I always feel like, wow, that's so cool. And then I have like this bag of tricks, but I don't get a chance to practice them. So one of my big things is, and based on also survey responses, people just wanted more time to practice. So instead of 1-hour sessions, I said, okay, we're going to increase it to 2 hours. And I told all the presenters, I said, it has to be hands-on. Like, I want them to actually walk away feeling capable of using this in their classroom and having lots of time to practice it. So people like that, but they still wanted more time with these presenters. So I was like, okay, I can't take people away from school, and Saturdays are the only days available. And I mean, if you guys really want to stay for 12 hours in PD, you know. So I changed it where now people would spend 3 hours with a presenter. So this past 3 weeks ago, so I changed it so that it was an hour and a half with your presenter. We had a keynote that was an hour, and then an hour and a half with your presenter of your choice. You go to lunch, and then you come back and you have another hour and a half with that person. So the first hour and a half is just practicing, getting familiar with it, seeing how it's used in the classroom, and then the second hour and a half was curriculum planning time, like actually giving them time to test it out and connect it to what they're doing currently in the classroom. And tons of positive reviews. I mean, if I didn't realize that my audience, they were actually very beginner when it came to technology, so they really appreciated more time. So yeah, I guess because I'm immersed in technology, I assume like, oh, everybody can get this, like this is great. And then I realized, like, you know, for the busy teacher who is managing 25 kids, you know, how often do you get a time to actually practice and learn something? So it benefited them a lot, and they felt a lot more confident in using those things in their classroom. So it helped them to focus on the things that would work best.
Yeah, I really appreciated the format at the last iTeach 808, because, you know, when we conducted PD at the beginning of the school year at Iolani, the most common feedback was you know, not having the opportunity to apply it to the curriculum and wanting that time to do so. So because you gave the attendees that opportunity to you know, experiment and plan and play around with how they can incorporate that technology or those skills into the curriculum, I think was very powerful.
Yeah, and then also we have to limit it to 100 people, so it's a little more intimate too. We have like 5 sessions, so you only have like 20 people in the classroom, and that's how it should be. Conferences are really great, but you're being fed information, and then you don't feel comfortable asking a question. So that's kind of one of the different things about iTeach 808 is that you feel like you're in a classroom and you feel comfortable asking questions and having that dialogue and not worrying about messing up the presenter's flow of presentation. We encourage that. Yeah. I see Peggy asked some really good questions.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump to that.
Yeah.
So one question she asked was, are any parts of iTeach 808 workshops streamed online, or are they all face-to-face? And I guess my follow-up question would be, in kind of knowing the answer to this, do you have any plans of streaming iTeach 808 sessions online in the future?
Yeah. Well, I think that has crossed my mind. I would love to do that. So that might be something we plan for in the future. I think my administration, they've realized how big this iTeach thing is getting. I mean, they were big supporters of it, and they're like, okay, good job, Laurel, you did great. But I think they're starting to see, like, wow, this is like one of the biggest things we have on campus, having all these educators from around the state coming in. So I could see myself getting more faculty to help me. Like, we have a great IT staff, so I could see them helping me to stream that live. Currently, what I am able to manage on my own is I have all the presenters put their notes, their presenter notes, their presentations online. So if there's somebody you really wanted to check out but you didn't get a chance to, or you missed the notes or whatever, I ask all the presenters to put it on our website, iteach808.blogspot.com. So anybody from around the country or world can access those. So that's the paper trail of all the presentations. So we have it from our first iTeach808, but it would be really cool. I need the manpower, so I can work on that. Yeah.
Definitely. And since we're in Hawaii, we're kind of in a unique situation where we're divided up amongst all these islands, and it can be difficult for these outer island educators.
Yeah. That's the perfect way to leverage the technology. I like that a lot. Thank you so much, Peggy. Yeah, I've only gotten that request one other time, and that was from somebody in California. They're like, "Oh, are you gonna offer this online?" And I'm like,
"Oh, wow."
Yeah, it was my first year, so I was a little overwhelmed. So I was like, "Oh, I'm just taking this day by day." So I just said, "You can check out our website for the presenter notes." But it would be really exciting. I think now that it's really starting to grow and build, and especially, for the neighbor islands. We've had a lot of interest from neighbor islands as well.
Yeah, and Hangouts on Air is a great
exactly.
Streaming like we're doing now.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great way to build our audience and reach more teachers. So thank you so much, Peggy. I appreciate the question.
Yeah, great question. So how was you kind of already hit on this a little bit. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about how your administration is involved in this project and conference.
Yeah, I really enjoy working for Betty White. I hope she hears it. I'm just kidding. No, she really is a visionary. She just last year she celebrated her 40th year in Catholic schools, and for Schools of the Future, like I said, there was like about 10 of us, our schools, and I think Betty White was one of the few that was actually still the principal throughout the duration of 5 years. Like, she is such a visionary. Like, year by year, some principals, this is how things were done, but she constantly is innovating and everything. So her leadership has really helped to kind of catapult iTeach8. She is the one who thought of it. I think inside the box and she thinks outside. So it's the fact that we got T-shirts, that was her. So she's constantly looking for ways to grow. She does, yeah, exactly. This came 3 days before the conference. She was like, "We need T-shirts." So she thinks big. I think like, oh, this is going to be a nice little professional development. She's thinking like, how are we going to reach the state? How are we going to, change education? And so it's wonderful to work under somebody who has that kind of leadership and so, she's kind of been the voice and the driving power behind it. The iPad, the technical stuff, she's still learning it, but she sees where education is going, and she supports it fully. So she gives me pretty much full reign. She's like, okay, Laurel, go with it. Go ahead. She'll put the money behind it too. So it's really exciting to have somebody who not only supports, education, but also professional development for teachers. So she sees the value in that, and also in helping other schools. And one of her goals is she wants Sacred Hearts to be a leader for Catholic schools, especially. So it's quite a tall order there. So in technology, so I'm just kind of following her lead, and what she says I do, and it's been a really exciting journey.
Yeah, it's great to have an administrator that, first of all, has a vision for the school.
Yeah.
But not only that, but has a vision for the beyond your school, beyond the community. How can we get more schools involved? How can we reach more?
Right.
So it's great to have an administrator that supports that and sees that in her mind and can envision that and makes it happen. It's definitely happening for you guys. So it's really exciting.
She definitely takes the road less traveled. Yeah, the road that nobody wants to go on, and she's a trailblazer. So who knows? Next year she might ask me to do something else, and everything she's done, I can't see it, I can't picture it, but like the bring your own iPad, I was like, there's nobody else doing that. Are you sure? and we all trusted her, and it's really been successful. So yeah.
Wow, that's great.
For another time.
Yeah, so you talked about how your first year, the goal was to just get your teachers proficient with the iPad, and then the second year was about creating digital portfolios and what options existed. So are there any future goals in place, or do you guys have any ideas for what's... I know you talked a little bit about free apps and exploring those options, but what's the next goal? Do you guys have that in mind?
I have goals in mind, and I run them by her. And so one of my goals is I really want to build global education. So kind of like Peggy mentioned, like video conferencing, live streaming. I would really like to, open that up for more teachers. And you think about it's not just to make your school better, but you're looking to make education better for all students. And how can we grow and learn together? And so, yeah, more of a global education, making our students more aware of what's going on in the world, and not just using technology for the sake of using technology. So, yeah, looking into more ways of integrating that appropriately at different development. We had to read, what is it? Raising Global Children. And so it's on Amazon, yeah, Raising Global Children, and it just talks about how the U.S. is behind in terms of its global understanding of the world and everything. So I think I really want to expand that. I want our teachers and our students to just be have more opportunities to collaborate with other cultures, other countries, and learn how to do that effectively and in ways that will benefit and connect to the curriculum. So that's pretty ambitious. It's kind of vague. I've told my heart for a very long time, and I'm constantly on the lookout. I know at Schools of the Future, the Hokulea people, they always stop by, and I'm like, that's a great starting point. So I don't know. I'm kind of like looking into those types of people who are looking to expand education beyond the four walls of the classroom.
A great goal.
Okay.
That's exciting.
Very ambitious goal, but doable too. But doable.
Yeah.
And you got to explore it from different angles too, right? About and that's what this whole month is about, right? Being a connected educator and connecting with people beyond your school and your community to the world around you, but also, as you said, trying to get our students to see what their place is in the world and connecting with other people and other students from around the world. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And technology definitely makes that easier.
So much easier. I think that's an appropriate use of technology. Things that you couldn't do before. How are you transforming learning for students?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool. So beyond, I kind of just wanted to hit on other than I Teach 808, and maybe it kind of leads into why you have I Teach 808. So what kinds of PD do you provide for your teachers at your school besides I Teach 808? And how is that PD decided on, and do the teachers have a say in that?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're still learning. I don't know. It's been trial and error because it was very intense our first year with iPads. Like, I think every school in Hawaii was like, what do we do with the iPads? We didn't have anybody to talk to we had to bring everybody from out of state to come in and do professional development. So it was a big learning experience. So it was very intense. Every Wednesday for an hour and a half we'd have professional development on iPads.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
That's awesome.
Our teachers, they work so hard. Just in the classroom alone, and what they put into it, I keep telling them, I'm like, I've been to lots of schools, you guys are ahead of the curve, but it's a lot of work that they put in. So our teachers they only see within our school like, oh man, this is so much work. But I tell them, if you compare it to other schools, you're ahead by a lot. So it's nice because we're all on the same page. But then second year, I went to the Iolani Unconference.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, EdCamp. And that was like, oh, that makes so much sense. It was like a light bulb went off. I was like, this is more exciting and more engaging than being told, here's what you need to know, here's what you need to do. So I was like, I kind of let it ruminate. We were still in the middle of digital portfolios our second year, so we had to get training on that. We all were on the same page. But now we're in our third year, and we're more proficient in iPads, we're more proficient in digital portfolios, so we have that flexibility now to have kind of a unconference sort of thing where we let teachers sign up or facilitate what they're most interested in, and it's been so successful. The teachers are very excited now about PD because they're choosing their topics, and I also kind of base it off of Desjardins. We work a lot with Desjardins too. We've had a lot of presenters from there too.
Wow.
So EdCamp and Desjardins sharing that through Schools of the Future, and then Mike Travis too sharing about his PD. I think Schools of the Future had a huge impact on our understanding of how to run professional development. So now it's more teacher-directed, and they're very excited. So yeah, and it's smaller groups too. So the people I work with, I know that they genuinely, this is what they want to learn. Instead of like, okay guys, hi, welcome, and you guys have to be stuck with me for an hour and a half. And they're all on different levels of tech abilities. So it made more sense to let them go on their own and work together. The rule is they just have to be with somebody, and they have to be, it doesn't have to be technology either, but you'd be surprised a lot of them choose to do technology. Like it can be how to communicate with parents, or it can be how to develop. It does make it more meaningful, and the teachers enjoy it a lot more. So I've learned that, and so now in all that I teach, I always try to include that choice component, because I learned about that through about project-based learning, giving students choice.
Yeah.
And boy, it really makes a difference, and they remember it more, I think, too.
It's yeah. I mean.
So you have professional development scheduled weekly.
Yes, every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday for an hour and a half.
An hour and a half. I know a lot of people are impressed with that. Yeah.
Yes, I'm very impressed with that.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. Like the teachers, you know, they do it. It's part of their contract, but they, I tell them, like, you know, the tools that you have, I mean, it's just outstanding what they're doing in the classroom, and they're very humble about it too. They don't think they're doing much, but I'm like, this is incredible. I was like, you should be presenting at Schools of the Future. You would understand what you're. It's really exciting. So yeah, come on by, take a tour of. Well, I gotta ask the teachers first. Yeah, but yeah, if you can come inside and take a look at their classrooms, yeah, it's really amazing.
And do any of your teachers present at your iTeach 808, or are you actually presenting at any local conferences?
Yeah. See, that's a great question. I think the iPads, it was really one of those, like, it was a big learning curve. So that took like a year or two to get just comfortable implementing it appropriately into the classroom, and not just buying all these apps because they're free or anything. So they feel really comfortable now, and also the was kind of combining the two. So now that we're in our third year, we had our early childhood education teachers, our preschool and kindergarten teachers, did a presentation on digital portfolios and apps in early childhood education, and it was by far one of the greatest presentations I ever saw. They have so many samples of digital portfolios. I don't even know how they managed to do that for 20 kids. We're in preschool, you can't do it for themselves. So it's really impressive. And then we also had a high school teacher who presented on iPad apps for your classroom, just as a way to get started. But he did it in a way that was collaborative, so it was meaningful, I think, for everybody. Yeah, so we're looking to get more in-house, but they also enjoy learning at these conferences. So they want to do it, but they want to take turns with somebody else, so that way they can also learn themselves. So, yeah.
Yeah, just to jump back to the Q&A, we got a lot of activity going. And I see Shane Hasselstein joining us from Omilani.
Oh, hi.
Guru, he's been on our show a couple times.
Yes.
I'm amazed at the fact that you guys have an hour and a half of PD every week.
I know.
That is amazing.
I think that's a lot more difficult to do with public schools, but I think also if it's a priority, then you make it happen, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's a big part of our school, and I think, like I said, giving the teachers choice, it's something now that they really look forward to. So that's my biggest advice. If you're in charge of professional development at your school, give your teachers as much choice as you can, and you can give the parameters, but try to give them choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Would you say to give them choice right away, or build that capacity like how you've done now that you've had the two experiences?
Right. Oh, yeah. I think it's a combination of the two. If I could, I didn't really have a choice. I was required to make it mandatory with everybody together. But if I had a choice, I would probably, like, half the time make it, here's some fundamental things that we all need to know as a staff, and then the other half of the time give them that. Here's your time for collaboration with your team, if there's something you wanted to review or something you knew you wanted to introduce. And then they kind of become responsible for their learning.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Peggy was talking about kind of jumping back to the idea of streaming sessions online for people that are not in our state or not in the area. She was mentioning about doing something like EduCon. I guess they have their students run the video cameras that allows them to stream the sessions online. It's a great idea. And she also posted a link to the next EduCon. I guess it's an annual conference, this time in Philly.
Oh.
Put the link there. So
Thanks, Peggy. Okay.
A lot of great things about EduCon too. So.
Cool.
Yeah, something to check out just to get some ideas on how connecting iTeach 808 globally might be possible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. So what iTeach 808? I know you're already planning for this next iTeach 808, but what do you see, next year or 5 years from now?
Oh my gosh, I know.
You kind of think about that and
after each conference, I'm like, I did it. It's done. No, it's funny. I've had a wedding every single day that I've had iTeach, so I like rush afterwards and go to my friend's wedding. And I'm like, wow. Yeah, it's so much fun planning these things. Actually, it's kind of a joy, a labor of love to be able to do this. I didn't expect it to be, but it actually is something I enjoy. But we've really done a lot more social media, I guess, compared to our first year, to our second year, to our third year. We had that little contest, like if they tweet about iTeach 808, or if they put it on Facebook and they use the hashtag iTeach 808, they get a prize if they have the top tweet or something. So that really like kind of blew up iTeach. And this past one, I said, okay, now make sure you also recognize our sponsors when you're doing these tweets. And our sponsors were just blown away. So it's always good to show your sponsors how much you appreciate them. So if you search for it, Augustine Educational Foundation was constantly tweeting about us, putting us on Facebook, and just saying thank you so much, or wow, we're so impressed. And then I included it on our survey response. I said, anything you want to say to our sponsors? I was very adamant, like, make sure you say something to our sponsors so we can continue to make this free. Boy, we had parfaits, and we had like free lunch. It was amazing. Anyway, so I was like, make sure you thank them. And Augustine, they responded, and they was like, we can't wait to fund the 4th annual one. And I mean, like I said, it's one of their most successful programs that they funded. And they've given away about $50,000, and they gave us 5, and which is actually one of the most amounts. And they can't wait to continue to fund it. And so I'm kind of, like I said, I base it off of each conference. I see how it goes. I look at the feedback, and I'm like, okay, so this is the direction technology is taking. Okay, this is the direction of what teachers need. So it's really a case-by-case thing, and I really try to listen to the audience and see what they really want. But yeah, I see it continuing on in terms of funding. Augustine is very excited, and they can't wait to just continue to be a part of it. And our school really looks forward to it as well. So I see it continuing. And I'm hoping, like Peggy mentioned, I'm hoping like with being able to broaden those borders, we can reach out to the neighbor island schools, especially the Catholic schools on the neighbor islands. So that would be very exciting. And then, okay, thinking even more leaving in the country, but like I said, I don't want to get don't want my head to get too big. Like thinking, I just want to make sure that we can, first of all, service the Catholic schools in Hawaii, and then hopefully touch the lives of other educators so that they can also have these opportunities. And hopefully it'll spur on. I've had several people come to me and they say, I hope we have more things like this in Hawaii, just kind of grassroots conferences in Hawaii where we have in-house teachers and just being able to share all the things that we've been doing in Hawaii and be proud of that. I don't know, yeah. We'll continue to. It depends on Sacred Heart's parking. Not just kidding.
But how can you call it a grassroots conference? Because that's, I mean, in essence, that's truly what it is, right? It's not. I mean, you have those typical, kind of like our Google Summits, our annual Google Summits, where
those are good.
for the most part, it's people brought into the state that we're not necessarily familiar with or have a personal connection to, and they're great. But when we have a grassroots conference like I Teach 808, it's much more personal, it's much more personable for the attendees. It's a lot easier for them to connect with the content and the people that are involved, and it makes for a much more enjoyable event too. And yeah, I like that. I like what you said. It's a grassroots, but also, I don't think it's, when you think about the future of I Teach 808 or any event that you plan, it's not about letting it go to your head and your head kind of getting bigger as you think about it. But it's good to have that bigger picture in mind, right? Envisioning what the possibilities are, because you have to kind of have that long-term goal set for yourself so you know where you're going. You don't want to just keep creating blindly without a direction. So having that long-term goal is great for a conference like I Teach 808.
Yeah, I get a lot of inspiration from the Schools of the Future conference. I pay close attention to what the presenters are talking about, what the list of workshops that are being offered, and I just kind of key in what direction is education taking. And hopefully I'll have more opportunities to travel. I went to the Boston conference with oh my gosh.
iPad Summit?
Oh, sorry?
iPad Summit?
The Boston conference, what's his name? Oh my gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue. It's this man, he's an innovator in education.
November. Something November?
November, yes.
November, yeah. Sean Connors always talks very highly of that.
Yeah. Kind of, those are big inspirations, I think. So being able to kind of get out there and also see other conferences, I think. And I always try to bring it back and then open it up to other schools. So, yeah, that was a big inspiration. So I'm hoping to get involved with more conferences and also just being a part of this EdTech Mixed Plate. I think thank you so much for all your feedback and just getting to talk to other educators myself. I think is helping me to develop that vision for the long term.
Yeah, and that's what being a connected educator is all about, right? Connecting with like-minded people and helping to grow PD and learning for the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Mike, there's one more question from Shane.
Yeah.
There's one more question from Shane. Can you pull it up?
Yeah, Shane's asking, let me put it up on the blue. So Shane asked, do you feel that the PD is irrelevant from the device? So I guess you say if you have laptops, is the PD focused on laptops, or if you have iPads, is it iPad focused? Do you find that happening with your teachers when they kind of have that freedom of choice? Is it always focused around the iPad, or do you see it?
Yeah, after going to the Allen November conference, they emphasize it's not about the device, it's about the teacher, right? How is the teacher using technology? technology changes so much. So I actually the first I teach, I was very adamant. I was like, I really wouldn't want to focus on the iPad. So I was really excited when Google Apps for Education came out because it wasn't tied to a device. And also with my students, I model that too. I don't always give them the answer like, this is how you use Pages, this is how you use Safari. I kind of try to give them just enough to guide them, but I really want to teach them problem-solving skills. So yes, that would be my ultimate goal, is teaching teachers how to develop habits of mind and not just being tied to the device. Because, like I said, tech changes so much that we can't just have, you know, the device. And so, yeah, as much as possible, I try not to focus on the device. If I have a choice, I try to step away from that. And so most of our, when we started out, we actually started out with the different levels, the SAM-R model, different ways of integrating technology effectively into the curriculum. That was the basis of iTeach 808. It wasn't iPad. But because we also invested a lot of money into this program, like tens of thousands of dollars, we did need that focus on iPads for that 1 year because it was such a huge investment. But after that, then we were able to kind of expand. Yeah.
Do you see that when you talked earlier about your teachers having kind of freedom of choice in what they want to learn during your weekly PD offerings? Do you see their choice focusing a lot around the device, or do you see it away from that a lot, or not so focused on the device?
None of it has been on the device. No, only like a handful have been doing the device. So some of them have been looking into just different programs like IXL, math, different curriculum, different ways to enhance the curriculum. Some of them have been on iPad apps like Chatterpix, which is free. The group that I was working with, we're working on designing a website. And then another group of teachers, they decided to do Google Maps, and they were following the Hokulea. And I was like, that's really exciting. So actually, it's a whole, you know, variety of interests, and that's exciting to me, to be able to see that the teachers are so varied at different grade levels. They have different needs, especially like the preschool teachers. They're very different than the 6th grade teachers in how they're using technology, so it's been a lot more meaningful in that sense. Those are good questions.
Yeah. It's good to see that the teachers aren't just focused on the device. You know, it's not for them. It's not the device isn't centered around their teaching and their students' learning. So it's good to see that the topics are kind of spread out and
right.
And that they're interested in learning about other technologies too. That's good.
Yeah, even with the students, I try to have a variety of media for them, to not just to have iPads, but you know, if you can. And the thing is, the students, when it comes to technology, the students are way more advanced than us teachers, but we have to understand our role as facilitators, and I think that's where the key is. The key comes into that. So, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And I just want to jump back to the Q&A. Peggy mentioned, and of course we have to remind everyone about the K-12 online conference. It's a great free online PD opportunity for educators. It starts tomorrow, and the keynote happens to be Wes Fryer, and his topic is igniting innovation in teaching and learning. So that's a really great free online PD opportunity. There's so many great free online opportunities for teachers out there. One of the resources I put in the show notes is a blog post that I created just last month about the power of online PD, and I have a list that I constantly add to of just free opportunities for teachers out there. It's great. You know, there's something to be said about face-to-face PD, which is great. I mean, not to put that down. It's great to put a face to a name and to meet people, you know, one-on-one, to talk to people. But then it's also great that there's so many, free opportunities online that allow teachers to connect to in a virtual world, not just face-to-face. So, thanks, Peggy, for that reminder. And she also included the link to that conference. Starts tomorrow, K-12 online conference. That's another great way to get connected this month. And of course, there's always I think the Global Education Conference by the Learning Revolution is next month in November. That's another great. I
Oh,
think it's
wow.
4 to 5 days of online, non-stop keynotes and sessions that are all online and free. So that's another great one. So we're almost at the top of the hour. So I wanted to kind of give you a loaded question. So talk a little bit about why. I guess why why I Teach 808 is important to you, and maybe just why. I mean, this is obviously your passion, right? I mean, you keep doing it because you love it. So, why is that? Why are you so passionate about it? And why do you keep doing it?
I'll tell you a story of how it got started.
Sure.
And that,
you love stories.
Why it means so much to me now. When we were doing the iPad program, we were like, oh my gosh, what is this? How do we use this thing? How do we turn it on? And MidPac actually was offering a free one-day conference, and they brought in like these experts from the Midwest or something, but they've been using iPads like for 4 or 5 years, and that's unheard of in Hawaii. We were all on the same page. So I got to go for free, free lunch, free everything. It was just me and just like a handful of other schools, not many, but when I went, it totally changed my view of iPads and gave me direction on how to implement iPads. And I was like, I can't believe MidPac let me come for free. Like, for them to fly in those 2 speakers must have cost like $5,000, $7,000, and they let me join them for free, let me be a part of their professional development. I was like, that is so awesome. My view of MidPac was so high that I was like, I would love to be able to do something like that for other schools, to make it free, but to have all these amazing resources that otherwise they wouldn't be able to have. And so that kind of, that story, I always remind of that story every time I host these events. I think about back to like MidPac's generosity and how I want to project that for other schools in the community, to give them those opportunities so that they can be successful in their tech programs. I think it's like kind of a way to give back to the community as well as build those bridges between schools. So that's why it's so important to me. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. And I love just seeing all the teachers from other schools. Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely. Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Mike, thanks for organizing all of this. This is so exciting. And
thanks for coming on and talking about your adventures in I Teach 808. And I mean, I definitely look forward to the next one, and I hope others do. And maybe one day.
Maybe I can watch it online.
I will talk to my IT guys. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Okay.
That's great. Thanks so much for joining us, Laura. And I think definitely I want to get you back on so we can talk about that whole idea of a BYOI, that whole bring your. I mean, it's I've never heard of it before. I'm really interested in finding out about how that came to be and how it's been over the past couple of years.
Let's just say I made a lot of cookies for my IT department.
Yeah.
Thanking them, because I should probably have my IT department on here with me. They are like the foundation of our whole program. Yeah.
That's a good idea. So we'll talk more about.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. See if we can make that possible.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're coming to the top of the hour. I just wanted to thank all of our live viewers out there, Peggy and Shane, and I see Anne Turige just jumped in and joined us. We appreciate you guys watching live, and for any of you out there who are going to watch the recording, we appreciate that too. Make sure you check out our show notes at bit.ly/mixedplate27. And I just wanted to comment that I added a link to that book that you mentioned earlier, Raising Children, so I tossed it into the show notes.
Thank you.
So people can check that out. And so we're going to continue with Connected Educator Month next weekend. We have another episode, and we're still working out the details, but the theme we're focusing on is, I'm drawing a blank.
Leadership?
Yeah. Changing leadership, I think it is. Leadership and change. So we're going to have on some great administrators from Hawaii. They're going to talk about their roles as administrators and how do we change the landscape of education and move, beyond what's we've been doing for years, and how do we make change? How do we make things happen? So we'll talk about that next week on EdTech Mixed Plate, and we appreciate everybody joining us tonight. Have a great night.
Yes, thank you. Have a good night.